Hello, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Crendor, and once again, it's been a while, but I am joined by Noble for some intense lore action.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's gonna be intense. Like, we've taken a break for a while. I mean, are you recharged? Are you good to go?
Oh, I'm recharged. I'm ready. I'm as ready as I can be after Shadowlands.
I've actually had people message me, like, Noble, when are you gonna sit down with Crendor again? We really enjoyed these videos. Like, his questions are exactly what we're wondering as well. So, yeah, we had to get back together, man.
Yeah, no, it's been too long. Probably
Hmm.
because WoW's lore's been bad for too long.
Wow. Well, that's a good start right there. Nah, Shadowlands, it's been interesting. It has ups and downs, but
That's
for a
that's
lot of people,
saying interesting. That's what you say, like, oh, like this food is interesting. Like nobody ever says that about something that's really good.
no, that's definitely true. But yeah, like I can't lie. I've taken a break for myself as well. But I do know people out there that have enjoyed the Shadowlands as a whole, so that's been great. But yeah, for me personally, I've taken a bit of a break, and you as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've been playing a lot of classic Wrath of the Lich King, which is where I'm flying around right now. Is classic Wrath. Cause I've been leveling my Death Knight after leveling a fresh Druid. It's been a great time. I've actually really loved leveling in Wrath.
I've been so very tempted to make a paladin and just relive those days again. Oh,
You
oh,
should
just a
do it.
Wrathgate cutscene, battle for the Undercity. Mm.
It's so good. Um, well, let's get caught up on just Shadowlands, and then we'll get into Dragonflight stuff, so we can do a little like recap. So,
Okay.
I don't even know what happened in Shadowlands. Like I know what happened, but I'm like, it felt like a blur, like a fever dream occurred. So can you just kind of wrap it all up real quick?
I mean, yeah, fever dream is not a bad description. In the Shadowlands. Okay, so we went into basically the afterlife of World of Warcraft, where the spirits go. We dealt with the threat of the jailer, and as it turns out, as they've added, the jailer has been made responsible after the fact for pretty much everything that happened in Warcraft so far. Through manipulations, through future visions, through the Dreadlords, through a whole bunch of things, the jailer has been made responsible. For example, Wrath the Lich King itself, jailer did it. At the end of the Shadowlands, we've taken care of the jailer. We've pretty much closed the door on the afterlife, resetting it to how it was as we went in there. Pretty much like we left behind things without changing major things. Sylvanas Windrunner has been punished and sent to the Maw. Enduin Rin, the leader of the Alliance side, he is on a bit of a personal journey, trying to rediscover himself after the event of the Shadowlands. And yeah, that's pretty much. Oh yeah, and we got a time skip. We're going to skip 2 to 3 years. I believe 2 years after we came back from the Shadowlands is when the next expansion is going to kick off. So for a little bit, or 3 years, for a little bit, we're going to have peace on Azeroth.
Oh, okay. So I didn't realize we were skipping ahead in time.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, they don't do it to create like massive effects. Like they don't do it
hmm.
because they want to have like all groundbreaking changes. It's more so because for the last, well, classic till now, the expansions are like 1 or 2 years in between. There's hasn't been a whole lot of time for Azeroth to just rest and relax and for characters to grow older. And with the Shadowlands, they felt like we're closing the book on a lot of Warcraft history. Opinions are divided if they actually did or not, but that's the way that they promoted it. Like a lot of storytelling come together at the end of the Shadowlands. The jailer was responsible for everything, and I think they've taken that opportunity to just say, okay, we want a bit of a breather on Azeroth. We want some childlike characters to grow up and perhaps play a part in the story. And 3 years later, 2 years later, we're kicking off into the Dragonflight.
So with Sylvanas, is she finally done?
For now, she is not entirely gone. And is she done? I doubt that they'll bring Sylvanas into the main story anytime soon. But similar to Thrall, certain characters are just around the
Hiatus.
corner. Yeah, just around the corner before they add it to the storyline. Like Thrall at the end of Cataclysm, speaking of dragons, was also very much overdone. They gave him a bit of a break, and then God, did they even give him a break? After the Cataclysm, we have Mist. In Mist, he didn't play a massive part, even though he did show up at like the Siege of Orgrimmar, and then Warlords played out, in which he actually joined us again. So they gave him a smaller role, I would say. So similar with Sylvanas, the whole reason of putting her in the Maw is that, I mean, comparable to how Illidan is now with Sargeras, comparable how Bolvar was frozen on the Frozen Throne. They, interestingly enough, it was actually an interview that you and Jesse did once upon a time. They don't want to close off storylines that hard. They always want to keep open a little window in case they want to go back, or they want to bring characters back. They could always do that.
Yeah, I get that. I get it from like a writing perspective and all that, but I just
from player perspective, Sylvanas is very much overdone. Not to mention the road that they play Sylvanas on. A lot of people are disappointed with what they've done with the character.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It almost feels like she was just kind of shoehorned into a lot of storylines just because they're like, people like Sylvanas, and then it's like, all right, they don't like her that much to the point where she's like a main focal point of everything.
Yeah, like the expansion of the Shadowlands is a lot about the story of Sylvanas, which is interesting because there's that many characters to deal with, as well as, in my humble opinion, Sylvanas should not have been the bad guy. Sylvanas should have been the Bolvar role. She should have stood with us against the Jailer, because the Jailer, as I said, is responsible for the Lich King, is responsible for Arthas, for Frostmourne, for all the Scourge and all the stuff that happens. And Sylvanas' whole motivation has always been taking care of Arthas, getting vengeance for what he had done to her. Imagine how she would respond to the one that was actually responsible for all of that. And yet somehow she allied with him. Now the book, of course there's a book, it does its best to give a proper motivation. And basically they throw everything at it. It's the motivation of the Shadowlands isn't fair, of the Jailer, it was never his intention to this to happen. If she didn't follow him, she would be tortured. Like, they threw a lot of motivation at Sylvanas as to why she allied to the Jailer. But ultimately, I personally don't feel like that was the path that Sylvanas was supposed to be on. And, well, here we are with I Will Never Serve and turning around. Not to mention that it feels like a lot of stories also being cut out of the Shadowlands. But yeah, here we are.
Do you think it's weird that they tie a lot of the story into books? Because it's like, I'm playing the game. I feel like I should get a lot of that story in the game. I feel like I shouldn't have to, like, read a book to get even more story on it. Like, I don't mind the books being a thing, but it feels like if you have to be like, oh yeah, I had to read the book to learn about the story of the game that felt incomplete.
100%. It should never be that you are required to read a book. The book can add to it. For example, Arthas. There's an Arthas novel out there. I love the Warcraft 3 campaign, but I feel that the Warcraft 3 campaign tells a complete story. I understand the character of Arthas. The book adds more insight. What was going on in his mind? What was he feeling? What was he doing? That's what I feel the books and the short stories should be. They should be adding to it, not explaining. In the case of Sylvanas with the Jailer, I find it ridiculous that the moment that she meets up with the Jailer is after all of the Lich King. Like, she feels that her mission to claim vengeance upon Arthas is done, and she throws herself on the top of Icecrown. That is a critical moment in the story of Sylvanas, in her motivation to ally with the Jailer. It's not in the game. It's not in the cutscene. It's nowhere except a short story on the WoW website and my machinima on Nobbel 87 YouTube channel. But it should have been in the game. Like, it's a critical moment. It's the very moment that she allies to the Jailer, and it's just not in there. Same to why she started working with the Jailer. Same with her brother Lirov. A whole bunch of stuff that was just never added to the game. That I'm like, either you planned to add it to the game and you just never got around to it, or you decided to once again put it in a book and make the mistakes of the past.
Yeah, like it feels like people want to read the books. It's like, wow, I love these characters so much. I want to like learn more about them. Not like, I guess I have to buy the book to learn why this thing occurred.
Exactly. Like, you need the game. It's a story in a video game, so the video game needs to explain on an understandable level this is going on. And if you want to add more details or mindset or intricacies, you can do that in a book. You can do that outside media. But ultimately, if your game doesn't explain the story proper, you're failing at telling your storyline.
Yeah. And did they hire new writers? I feel like there's a thing that happened where the writers left and they got new ones. Do you know?
Can I ask, why do you feel that way?
Well, why I feel that way? You mean like about them firing their writers or hiring new ones?
Yeah, why you feel like why do you ask, like, did they get new writers?
just because I saw a post about it, and I feel like that happened, but I may have made it up in my head, so I was just trying to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Oh, okay. No, I thought that you meant about the quality of the story. No, no, no. There's been massive changes. Like there's of course Chris Metzen, who left the
Mhm.
company a while ago. We've seen presidencies change seats as well. We of course had the controversy, as people call it, over the Blizzard, where a whole bunch of people were kicked out as well.
Mhm.
So over the years, yeah, 100% that the writing team, that the creative directive team has changed for the story of Warcraft, 100%. And I personally find it really like it's anyone's guess when exactly these changes went to the forefront. Personally, I feel like there's a big change when you look at Battle for Azeroth, but even in Legion, there are certain things that I'm like, that could be a thing as well. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's definitely been changes, 100%. And sometimes, apparently, this goes back to Battle for Azeroth with the whole burning of Teldrassil, where Sylvanas yelled, like, burn the tree.
Mhm.
Apparently, there was only one person who was now fired that wanted that tree to burn, which I found really interesting. But even then, like, some people have taken it to the forefront and tried to use it as an excuse as to what Battle for Azeroth and Sylvanas and Shadowlands became. But ultimately, even with the tree burning, there have been so many choices along the way that could have turned the story in a completely different direction. I think that just the tree burning is not enough as an excuse to explain like Shadowlands and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So I feel like they're going in the right direction now from listening to everybody talking. At least I'm hoping they're going in the right direction. I don't know.
I think
Maybe
a lot of
it's
people are really on the hoping. Personally, hoping as well. Shadowlands was very cosmic, and personally, I found a lot of concepts and a lot of ideas, like the first ones, or like the Shadowlands as a concept, as the beginning, as like where could this go? Personally, I found it rather interesting. It's just that the execution and the delivery and the road that the story took. I personally, I don't hate where Shadowlands ends. I just don't think that the story brought us there.
mm,
It needed more time, more development, more a whole bunch of things.
yeah, I agree. I think it just needed more development overall. And I guess that's why I think if you people like Wrath of the Lich King and Burning Crusade, 'cause you had that development through the RTS game, right?
Yeah, that as well. Like the RTS had a whole bunch of build up. Um, but at the same time, like it's not impossible to build up a character in World of Warcraft. Take Garrosh Hellscream, for example. Garrosh is a well-known character
Mm,
that start to finish is built up in Burning Crusade and ended in, well, now we know the Shadowlands, but that you can build up characters and storylines in World of Warcraft itself. You don't have to rely on Warcraft 3. But there's definitely the callback to what the RTS used to be. The storylines that were built up. Like Wrath of the Lich King is just the way that I see it is that Classic was kind of like remember Warcraft 3. Now you can see it in 3D and you can play through it. Burning Crusade was very much like remember those that left on Outland. Now you can go there as well. And now Wrath of the Lich King is very much like remember the Frozen Throne. Remember how we left that story open. And then you go into the Cataclysm, and then it's like, hey, where's the Warcraft related stuff? And then they had to fly on their own wings. And sometimes they nailed it, and sometimes it needed more.
yeah. No, I agree with that. It's the one thing I always enjoyed about Classic is it feels like you're doing a bunch of little stories, which I guess some people might not like, because it feels like in modern WoW and retail WoW, you are already an established hero, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I am a hero. Everyone's like, there he is, hero that killed all these big bosses. But in older WoW, it's like you're kind of growing as an adventurer, and it's almost like that D&D style of like RPG. Like I'm progressing my character, and then the current expansions are like I've already progressed. And I think a lot of people, probably myself included, prefer that adventure kind of growing into your story take on things.
Yeah, I would agree. Like a lot of people have said, like the classic feels more like an adventure, like you're exploring the world. But I would also argue that while yes, the storylines were more diverse and was more your adventure, I also wonder if time has something to do with that. Because at the end of the day, um, we are going through the same quests and through the same zones and the same characters and whatnot. We are playing basically the same game.
Mm.
Um, I wonder if the adventure is still there, yet we have become familiar with it in a way. But 100%, I do agree with you. Like the mindset of we are the chosen ones. Like just think back to Legion, where we stepped up, we became like the leaders of our order halls. Like hello, High Lord and Death Lord. I thought it was awesome. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you are definitely put more to the forefront. Then yet at the same time, when you run into characters that you've known for years, take a Thrall for example. Like I've been to that man's wedding in the Cataclysm,
Yeah.
and he just calls me Maulwalker in the Shadowlands, like very distant, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so you don't recognize what I've done.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird loophole things like that. And you're just like, dude, Thrall, come on, man. I know you.
I saved your life like 5 times. What do you mean, Maulwalker?
Maybe he's got amnesia. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with all that, but I do think it's like you said, it is possible to create, you know, characters that you care about through, like, for example, I think in Wrath of the Lich King, like pre-patch, you've got Arthas being like, "Hey, how you doing?" And you're just like walking around, and you're like, "Oh, how's he talking to me?" And he's just like, "I see you." And then, you know, going through Wrath, like the entire time, they're like, "Oh, the Lich King," right? They're doing all these things, and it feels like they try to do that now, and it just doesn't work well, or they don't do it at an effective level in terms of like playing through the game and feeling like, oh, this is the big bad character.
I mean, you're comparing it to Shadowlands now?
Well, yeah, in comparison to like Shadowlands, some of the expansions I think did it all right.
I was about to say, yeah, okay, but like for me, Shadowlands is very much like the odd duckling out compared to all the other expansions,
That's
even
true.
a Warlords. and to compare like Wrath of the Lich King, I've been working on like the story of Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and just remembering how much lore is just jam-packed into these zones, how much is going on. Like you said, Arthas is showing up and taunting you along the way. And not just taunting you because they can, as the jailer does, and then he just turns around and he's like, I could kill you any moment, but I'm not going to, because, well, I guess we have to have our final confrontation. In the case of Arthas, there was a reason, because Arthas wanted us to be there at the top of Icecrown. He wanted the finest soldiers to be there so he could res us and have like the greatest fighting force ever. And he did. He did res us. Almost, if Tyrion didn't cheat with his whole, oh yeah, light, give me one final blessing. Like, Arthas won. We were dead on the floor. Arthas actually did what he set out to do. It was awesome. He was not bragging. He was not like, haha, I'm gonna kill you the next day. He was literally taunting and edging us on to come to the top of Icecrown. It was glorious. And just, if you, I would 100%, anybody that's gonna play Classic Wrath of the Lich King, pay attention to the quest lines, because there's just so much going on in each and every zone.
Yeah, 100%. It's nice not having the James Bond villain moment of like, I'm going to kill you any second, and here it comes. It's going to happen. And then.
Oh, dude, there was a moment in Zero of Mortis, I swear. There was a moment. It was the final patch. The jailer shows up at like your bubble city. You have no escape. You have no way to stand against him. And literally, for no reason, he's like, Mossworn, we're out. We got other things to do. And it's like, what? What? Like, not even a motivation given. Like, we gotta go. And I get it. The jailer's like arrogant and he doesn't believe that we can stop him. But he couldn't take 5 seconds to one-shot us? No? So, okay. Okay, bye.
Yeah, I think those are the types of things that get people being like, what? But, you know, hopefully going forward, it's gonna get better. We get some, you know, I don't know, I'm also excited to be done with the whole Shadowland, or like the get back to more fantasy type stuff, you know, in Azeroth. I think a lot of people are.
Speaking of future and fantasy stuff, dragons!
Yeah, we had to,
yay!
we had to get the Shadowlands stuff out of the way. There you go. That's the Shadowlands rant. So now we're going on to Dragonflight. So what's going on now? Like, a little synopsis.
Okay, right, a little synopsis. Well, fun fact, it's actually your and Jesse's fault that we're gonna do what we're gonna do.
Sick.
You did like an interview way back in 2007, I think it was, with Ian Hazacostas about dragons. And we're gonna come back to that, or maybe like 2017, I don't know. We're gonna come back to that. Anyways, synopsis. Once upon a time, the dragons, they lived on the Dragon Isles, and 10,000 years ago, there was like the War of the Ancients with like the Burning Crusade. You might remember in Battle for Azeroth, like Azshara that was like drowning. the big ass well of eternity, the land splitting apart 10,000 years ago. The dragons, they had to join that war. So they said to the Dragon House, "Look, lock up, turn over the keys, put on the webcams, stay safe. If any strangers show up, then don't open the door. Only open the door for us, right?"
Yep.
Except I think they kind of forgot the location of the Dragon House, or something happened which made it like vanish for 10,000 years. Think Mr. Pandaria, like the Isle had been missing.
Oh yeah.
And now it reopened again. So there's like this stone. If you've seen the cutscene, there's like this stone guy that climbs the tower, who wakes up, climbs the tower, and gets the tower activated again. And the dragons, they find the Isles and they return home. After 10,000 years, they return to the Dragon House.
Oh. That's
Sorry,
the big
that
thing.
was synopsis. That's what's going on.
All right. So is this okay in terms of dragons? Because like all my dragon knowledge currently stems from like Cataclysm, and I've run Dragon Soul for those mounts so many times, and I've heard them be like, "Praise the Titans" and all that stuff, right? Does this have any tie-in to the Cataclysm dragon stuff whatsoever?
Sort of. Okay, we need to go back in time. So for those who are listening who are like worried about Dragonflight spoilers, don't worry. I don't want to go too much into it. And if I'm going to go into it, I'll give you like a heads up, like this is actually what happens. I more want to go into like, okay, this is what we know about the dragons so far. So the dragons, they're very well explored in the Warcraft lore. Like we've had the Dawn of the Dragons, we've had Day of the Dragon, we've Night of the Dragon, we've had Twilight of the Dragons. We've had the Cataclysm, and at the end of the Cataclysm, they were like, "Yo, we're done. It's the Age of Mortals." Dragons, once upon a time, were actually proto-dragons. Way back when, on Azeroth, we had like the Titan Keepers. If you remember, in Ulduar, there were the Keepers. You had like Freya and Thorim and Tyr. And Tyr was dealing with a threat called Galagrond. The bones of Galagrond are actually in Dragonblight. The Lich King is trying to resurrect him. Galagrond was this massive proto-dragon that for some reason had evolved and mutated and started to eat his own kind. It becomes such a threat that Keeper Tyr woke up and he was like, that's quite the problem that we're having there. And he couldn't deal with it alone. No. He had help. He had the 5 original aspects, still proto-dragons at the time, very primal, very elemental. They teamed up, and together they managed to bring Galagrond down, stopping this threat, and basically showing Tyr, like, look, my other keepers, they're a bit lazy right now. Azeroth could use some more defenders. I'm going to empower these proto-dragons, and we're going to make dragons. Awesome. We're going to have more defenders. Fun fact, in Legion, you've gone through the Halls of Valor with Keeper... Oh, God, it was Odin, right? Odin actually took a wing from Ulduar up into the sky because he was pissed that they made the dragons. And he was like, we don't need no dragons, we just need my Valajar and it will be great. And the other keepers were like, lol, no, we want dragons. And he was like, no, the Titans left me behind in charge, I get to make the rules. And they were like, nah, we're gonna make dragons. And he was like, if you do that, I'm gonna take Ulduar. And it's like, okay, go do that. So that's how the Halls of Valor were created. And the dragons were empowered. So we had... Deathwing, who was still called Neltharion, he was going to lead the Black Dragonflight. Alexstrasza, the Reds, she was going to be the queen of the dragons and lead the Red Dragonflight. Her domain was life, whereas Deathwing had earth. Malygos the Blue, who you kill during Wrath of the Lich King, he was going to be the aspect of magic. There was Ysera, who was going to be the green Dragonflight aspect. Her domain was going to be Emerald Dream. She died in Legion, and we played with her in the Shadowlands, like she's connected to Ardenweald. And then Nosdormu, the Bronze. He was going to be the master over time, and he would lead the Bronze Dragonflight. Great unity. 5 dragon aspects, 5 dragonflights next to the aspects, because, inbreeding was not going to be a thing. They also empowered a whole bunch of the proto-dragons, and all of those became dragons. And they had like their flights, and they had the domains. They had Wormrest Temple as like their symbol of their unity in Dragonblight. They had the Dragon House, all fantastic stuff. But not all of the proto-dragons were evolved, and you have the more elementalist things. And, the dragons, they did their thing, and they started defending the world. That is Dawn of the Aspects. That is the beginning. And as cool as the ideas were to have dragons protect the world, not everything worked out as great. So our friend Deathwing Nelfarion, he was the aspect of Earth, and in the Earth of Azeroth were the old gods who were already whispering to him, and already slowly but surely were like, Nelfarion, they made Alexstrasza the queen, but what if you were the king? What if you could have her as your consort and Ysera as your consort? What if you could rule the world? What if you could be the man? And he was like, yeah, what if I could be the man? Like, yeah, you are Deathwing. Well, actually, Nelfarion, but you could rule the world. And he's like, yeah, I could rule the world.
Yeah.
And all of them will betray you. Is like whispers of the old gods constantly going at him. So he was slowly but surely driven mad, and he was, going to betray his fellow aspects. We go back to that War of the Ancients, that 10,000 years ago. They were fighting against the Burning Legion. A big-ass invasion of the Burning Legion. Like, Archimonde made his way to Azeroth, a whole bunch of demons. The Night Elves were doing their thing. The Wild Gods were trying to protect the world. It was a mess. And the dragons were like, we're gonna help out. And Nelfarion was like, hey, I got an idea. What if we take, like, this really cool disc that I got, and we empower it with our powers, and we'll call it the Dragon Soul. And with it, our powers will be combined. We can use it against the Legion. You can actually see this moment. Again, it's interestingly enough a lot of Wrath of the Lich King stuff now that I think about it. Inside of Yogg-Saron, one of the visions is actually this moment where they create the Dragon Soul. Fun side bit right there.
That is cool.
So they made the soul. And they didn't know that Nelfarion, he was like, I'm not going to give up a portion of my power. So he was the only one still fully powered, and he turned against the rest of them. Malygos, the blue dragon aspect, who was his bestest buddy, like they could have been brothers. He was like, yo, Nelfarion, what the hell, man? We were like going to defeat the demons, and now you're turning against us. What the heck? We should stop this. So Nelfarion nearly wiped out the entire blue Dragonflight, which caused Sindragosa to fly all the way to Icecrown and die there, to then be resurrected by Arthas. And Malygos to turn mad because he was betrayed by his bestest friend. Now, unfortunately for our Nelfarion, using the power of the Dragon Soul, or the Demon Soul as it became to known, it also had its effect on him. And he would like split apart, and like magma and fire would come out, like his madness would come to the surface. So he had to bolt himself down with some plates. And from that moment on, they would call him Deathwing. His madness would also spread throughout the entire Black Dragonflight. So ultimately, they managed to get like the Dragon Soul away from him. They pushed him back. The War of the Ancients was won. Azeroth did not die, and the Black Dragonflight was nearly hunted to extinction. But of course, they did not stop the threat of Deathwing. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit, like 10,000 years more present.
All right, just a little bit.
Just a little bit more present day. In essence, that moment where Deathwing betrayed the other aspects is a critical moment for the entire flight. Basically, the old gods trying to corrupt things, basically what caused the major threats amongst dragonkind. So that Demon Soul would later be used by the orcs in order to enslave Alexstrasza and her dragonflight. And that's how the orcs got like red dragons to fly on in their war against the Alliance. The green dragonflight would have to deal with the Emerald Nightmare, which is a corruption from Yogg-Saron, the old god. So that was their major threat. The bronze dragonflight is dealing with like timeline corruption and Moruzand, and Moruzand is a future Nosdormu corrupted by the old gods. So he is dealing with the old gods. Well, of course, the black dragonflight with like the old god corruption. And then the blue dragonflight, Malygos and Wrath the Lich King was like, he got his sanity back, and he was like, oh no, the mortals, they're all stealing my magic, and they're misusing it, and they're not allowed to play with my magic anymore. So he drew it all into the Nexus, to which we and Alexstrasza, we were like, yo, could you not? And he was like, nah, this is my magic now. So we went in and we killed Malygos, also in Wrath the Lich King. And then Caligos became the new aspect. So that's so far, kind of in a nutshell, the history of the dragons. And then we go into the Cataclysm, where once again, our boy Deathwing... I'm not rambling too much, I hope. Is it still followable?
No, you're good. I'm good.
Okay, good. Then we go into the Cataclysm. So basically, all these years, like over 10,000 years now, our boy Deathwing has been listening to the whispers of the old gods. He has N'Zoth in his corner, and basically it's time to get things going. Basically, it's time to bring about the Hour of Twilight, which is the moment in which the old gods will break out of the prisons and they would rule the world once more.
Dude, every time I hear
So,
Hour of Twilight, I just think of doing a mount run and that guy being like, the Hour of Twilight. Like, oh my god, Ultraxian.
I'm Ultraxian, I'm perfection, and then you're like one-shot it. But I'm
Yeah.
Ultraxian!
The beginning of the gun. Continue.
God. So yeah, that Hour of Twilight, that's what it was all about. The old gods breaking out, and that's what Deathwing tried to accomplish. And the entire expansion, it was really Thrall's moment to shine as well. Because here we move on from, like in Day of the Dragon, that's a book in which the Dragon Soul was destroyed and the aspects got their power back. Ronin, the guy that's in Dalaran during Wrath of the Lich King, he did that. Night of the Dragon is pretty much when they're messing about and making new dragons like Ultraxian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Twilight of the Dragon is pretty much the book in which Thrall, he parties with the aspects, and he basically, which in my opinion is pushing him a little bit too far, but he basically teaches the dragons how to be their aspects, how to be their dragons. And in turn, he doesn't become an aspect himself, but he is able to stand in as a Deathwing, like an aspect of Earth, because he's a shaman. You've ran Dragon Soul a million times.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen him like powered up with the other aspects. He was pretty much their fifth party member in order to complete their cycle and stand up against Deathwing.
Yeah, he's like the mercenary dragon coming in.
He's just, I'll substitute for a little bit. I'm not actually a dragon. I'm not actually an aspect, but I'm Thrall. I got this. Don't worry about it. So interestingly enough, that device that Deathwing made, the Dragon Soul, we actually go back in time to the War of the Ancients to yoink it out of the timeline and bring it back into our time. And we use the Dragon Soul against him to stop him, ultimately. That's the ending of the Cataclysm. And weirdly enough, what they say there is that they fulfilled their purpose and now they must see the world with mortal eyes. But that ending has always been a bit weird because we've taken care of Deathwing, right? We've taken care of Deathwing trying to bring about the Hour of Twilight. However, if that was their purpose, then if they were never turned into the aspects to begin with, they would have never had their purpose.
Yeah, that is.
So it's like, okay, what are you talking about? Nor are there any other threats that were no longer going to be a threat to Azeroth. Like, we could still use dragons in order to safeguard the world. So what are you talking about? You fulfilled your purpose. No. You just sacrificed a huge chunk of your power in order to bring Deathwing down. That's basically what they're saying.
Yeah.
And back then is when they said, like, okay, dragons, very, very weird choice as well. Dragons can no longer reproduce, which in essence translates like the Titans made the dragons, but only until they fulfilled their purpose, after which they lost their ability to have babies, which, if I was Alexstrasza, the aspect of life, I'll be like, what? That's what? Thankfully, again, you and Jesse have done an interview, and Ian Hostakostas confirmed, like, we didn't want to slam the door on dragons that hard. We didn't want to close that storyline. And over time, we're going to have to figure out something in order to bring dragons back into the storyline, as well as that whole reproduction thing. Forget about it. Dragons can still reproduce. And thankfully, we've already seen those moments. Like in Legion, we saw blue dragons. During Battle for Azeroth, on the island expeditions, we got hints of searching for the Dragon Isles and dragons still being a thing. So over time, they've been working towards more and more of the dragons into the storyline. But that so far is basically what we have with the dragons up to the Cataclysm. Now there's a tail end, but I just want to ask, like, so far, where are we at? We just thought, so far, does it make sense? Am I rambling? What's happening?
No, I got it. We're getting all caught up. So I'm curious as to now how far into the future from Cataclysm ending and all that stuff is Dragonflight?
Okay, help me out here. So after the Cataclysm, we got Warlords? No, Mr. Pandaria.
No, Mr. Pandaria, Warlords, Legion,
Battle for
BFA,
Azeroth, Shadowlands. Time skip.
Yep.
So give or take, there were 5 expansions, so give or take 5 to 10 years. I'm going to say 5-ish. I should look up the official timeline. Give or take that we're looking at 7 to 10 years. I'm going to say top of my head until we reach Dragonflight.
All right. That's actually not as much as I thought.
it's insane how world-ending threats seem to follow each other on Azeroth after every single time, which is why
Yep.
it's kind of nice that they're actually doing a bit of a skip in there.
Yeah.
But to continue into the tail end, so basically what happened after the Cataclysm is they had to sacrifice a huge chunk of their a chunk of their power in order to stop Deathwing for good. N'Zoth was still out there, but at least the threat of Deathwing was taken care of. That didn't mean that their domains were all of a sudden gone. Like the timeline still needed to be protected. The Emerald Dream still needed to be protected. Life, it all still needed to be protected.
Mhm.
And a cool part there is that they started working together with the Mortals in order to make that happen. So they were like, the dawn of Mortals is upon us. And the Mortals, they proved themselves powerful enough to stand with the dragons and help them do their job. So we saw the Druids with Ysera. We saw on the Timeless Isle in Mr. Pandaria, we gathered and we worked with the Timekeepers, they're called. It's like a faction of mortals that work with the Bronze Dragons. We've helped out the dragons a couple of times. You might remember a certain black dragon that we created, Wrathion.
Yep.
During Mr. Pandaria. Definitely a fan of the people. Wrathion, interestingly enough, was the first uncorrupted dragon that we knew of. But because we experimented with it. And our guy, Wrathion, still young as he was, wasn't too happy with what the Red Dragonflight did in order to create him. But ultimately, they did get what they wanted, which was an uncorrupted Earth Warden. They got an uncorrupted Black Dragon again, who was going to do whatever it took in order to keep Azeroth safe. And Wrathion, he had seen the coming of the Burning Legion. He had seen the Expansion Legion, or he saw an invasion from the Legion. And in his own way, he tried to protect Azeroth from it. So his first plan was in Mr. Pandaria to have the Alliance wipe out the Horde and take care of Garrosh, absorb the Horde, wipe it out, whatever. A unified Azeroth. That was Wrathion's vision. Unfortunately for Wrathion, Varian wasn't going to play ball, and he was like, Vol'jin, the next time that a war chief rises up. You know, the ending of the Cataclysm of Mr. Pandaria.
Yeah.
And Wrathion was pretty upset. He was like, I should have done it myself, like Anti-Onyxia, and he flew off. And he flew off to then pursue his plans with his new bestest buddy, which is called Nosdormu, a bronze dragon on the Timeless Isle. And Kairos, he wanted us to help him create a time device. With the time device, he managed to get Garrosh out of his trial. He sent him over to an alternate reality, to Warlords of Draenor. That's right, Wrathion and Kairos, they made alternate Warlords of Draenor happen. And they expected Garrosh to form the Iron Horde, another horde to stand with us against the Burning Legion. That was their second grand scheme plan. Not counting on Garrosh just not being willing to be manipulated. Garrosh was like, I'm not going to be a worker for you guys. I'll form an Iron Horde, but first I'm going to kill you, little dragon. Then I'm going to form an Iron Horde, and then I'm going to conquer Azeroth.
Classic.
So, damn right, he's Garrosh Hellscream. So he comes in with the red portal, and we push back. And then, funny enough, Wrathion trying to stop or protect the world from the Legion coming actually caused the Legion to come. Because at the ending of Warlords of Draenor, we see alternate Gul'dan send over to our Azeroth, and Legion happens. So he kind of caused what he wanted to prevent and protect the world from. Whoops.
That's
But
like those things where the people see the future and they're like, I gotta prevent it, and then it happens.
Exactly. And that's also, like, a lot of people are still asked, like, why was Anduin so upset with Wrathion? Why did he tell Wrathion, like, my father died because of you? That's the whole sequence. Like, Wrathion caused Legion to happen, and in Legion, Varian died. Then, after the whole Legion thing happened, we got Battle for Azeroth, and one of the smaller quests during the island expeditions, I believe there was, like, a dragon skill or whatnot, it led us to Wrathion, in which we got a small hint that Wrathion was already looking for the Dragon House. So there was already a small hint of the Dragon House coming. Then if we look at the other Dragonflight, so he's like representing for the Black Dragonflight with two more. He has like two more brothers. There is one Ebonhorn in Legion that we met in High Mountain, if you remember.
Don't remember, but I feel like if I saw it, I would.
Okay, well, in High Mountain, there was like Mela, and there was this quest line with the Hammer of Kaskarov, and we found out that with the hammer, they were able to make an uncorrupted Black Dragon, which was Ebonhorn. Last you've seen him chills in the Chamber of Heart next to Wrathion. And then the other one is Sibelian. Sibelian is in Outland. He is... oh god, in Blade's Edge Mountains, fighting with like the Grun and whatnot. And he is like an old school Black Dragon, but he's just been chilling on Outland ever since the expansion and hasn't really been doing anything. So they're Team Black Dragonflight. Then we got.
Oh, I remember Ebonhorn. I just Googled him.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Then we got the Green Dragonflight. So we got Ysera. Ysera died in Legion because she tried to save Malfurion from the Emerald Nightmare, from Xavius. And then in the Shadowlands, we saved her soul, her spirit. And she has been connected to Ardenweald. The Winter Queen did like this really beautiful cutscene, really nicely done. And her soul, instead of disappearing, has been connected to that zone. And then on Azeroth itself, we got like her daughter called Marifra, and she's been pretty much filling in for Mum. Then the Red Dragonflight, Alexstrasza hasn't done much. I mean, the Red Dragonflights were pretty pissed at the Death Knights back in Legion. As Death Knights, they went like into their hatchery and started murdering everybody. Awesome, by the way. Awesome questline. You used to be able to get an achievement for that, but Blizzard was like, nah, we're going to remove that.
Oh.
It was sad times. But Alexstrasza has been pissed off at that. And yeah, pretty much like fulfilling the role of, you know, Queen of the Dragons.
Right.
There was a small quest line in Battle for Azeroth, but neither here nor there.
But she's like
Caligos.
the main
Oh yeah,
spokesperson, I guess, of this expansion.
yeah, she is the queen. She's absolutely. I don't know if you've seen like the new loading screen. It's not really a spoiler. Although it maybe if you pay really close attention as to who are on the loading screen, maybe not a good idea to actually check it out. But
yeah, I saw it, but I had no idea what I was looking at. So
okay, well, it looks gorgeous. That's for sure. Like I really, even our new model is. The very first iterations, I was like, this looks too childlike. But now with the updates, I actually think it looks amazing. Most dragons are getting new models as well in Dragonflight. It was really cool. Right, so Alexstrasza hasn't done much. Blue Dragonflight, we got Caligos, who's taken over from Malygos. And Caligos has pretty much been busy keeping the Dragonflights together. He has told his Blue Dragonflight, like, look, you don't have to hang out at the Nexus. Go out, go find yourself a life or something. Go do something with your life. So they're no longer chilling at the Nexus. But he has been keeping them together, as well as he was romantically involved with a Jaina Proudmoore, which led him to join the Kirin Tor in Dalaran. But I don't believe they're still together anymore. I think that's like one of those storylines that was like, yeah, we're breaking up now. And then they never really got back into it.
Celebrity relationship.
Sorry, what?
I said it's like a celebrity relationship.
Yes, it was purely done for the paparazzi. Purely done for the propaganda.
Yep.
Now, our boy Kalik, he's drawn to magic. Like, he's already fallen. There was once upon a time the Sunwell, and the Sunwell was destroyed by Arthas, right? And they had to blow it up. But there was an essence left of the Sunwell, pure magic, that was transformed into a girl, and our Kalik fell for her. He fell for her hard. So he fell in love with the Sunwell, and then he fell in love with Jaina. And yeah,
loves
he's
magic.
just not been lucky. He loves the magic. That's why he became the Aspect. Hey. And then the final one, which I personally find the most interesting one, is the Bronze Dragonflight with Nosdormu. Now, we know, if they're not going to change the storyline, that is, but we know that Nosdormu is eventually going to turn into Moruzand, which we fought during the Cataclysm. And Moruzand is the Aspect, the leader of the infinite Dragonflight. Whereas the Bronze Dragonflight, they want to keep the timeline pure and they want to make time happen as it's supposed to happen. Nosdormu also knows his moments of demise, which the Titans, or those that empowered him, they showed him like, this is how you're going to die, just to keep you on your toes. Just to remind you that even though you have the power over time, not even you are going to be immortal, right? But at some point, some way, somehow, the old gods were able to manipulate him. Were able to convince him to abuse his powers, do the one thing that he was not supposed to do, which was subvert his own mortality. And that created Moruzand, that created the Infinites. And the Infinites are all about messing with time. And for some reason, they tried to stop Arthas from making it to Northrend. They tried to stop Thrall from escaping Durnhold and form the Horde. They tried to stop the original Horde from getting onto Azeroth. There's another one that I'm... Oh, yeah. Medivh with the Dark Portal. Nah, that's the same one. I think there's another one. Either way, they've been messing with the timeline. And you can speculate as to what exactly they were trying to do. but nonetheless, they've been messing with the timeline. And we know from Nosdormu that at some point he becomes Moruzan. Because the moment that we kill him in the Cataclysm, he's like, yep, that's my moment of demise. We've closed the loop. It sucks, but at least I'm dead now.
Right.
But when exactly is he going to be corrupted? When exactly is that going to happen? There were hints with Kairos, the one who brought Garrosh over. It seems like, hey, that seems to be like alternate realities, time manipulation, but they never really pushed forward with that one. So yeah, those are the Dragonflights so far.
Huh. So that's actually pretty cool. I didn't even know like all the Nosdormu stuff, to be honest. Like I'm sure I played through it, but I never really, kind of thought about it or looked into it or whatever. So I think he's probably my favorite one I've heard from everybody.
Yeah, Nosdormu is amazing. As well as Chromie. Like Chromie is the one who lets you do all the leveling, but is just a wonderful character.
Yeah. So now, all right, we're going into Dragonflight, going to the Dragonlands, which, by the way, I love all the new zones. I've done pointless top 10s for every zone, because, I mean, there's only 4. But normally there's, like, at least one zone I'm not even a big fan of, but I actually love all the new zones, like, a lot. So I'm curious to, like, learn the lore of each zone once that actually happens.
That's already a good sign. Yeah, like the art team always delivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about what happens on the Dragon Isles, but then like this is then your spoiler warning for those that don't want to know what's going to happen, in case we do talk about it.
All right.
But you've done pointless top 10s. Have you actually gone through the quest lines as well, or not?
No, I've just flown around and looked for stuff. Solely pretty much art and design and, all that stuff. That's mainly what I focus on in Pointless Top 10 is just the cool art things.
Gotcha. I just love the dragon riding, man. It's honestly such a fun feature.
Yeah. So is this, yeah, it actually really is. Once you get used to it. It takes a little bit to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's really cool. So in terms of, like, spoiler warnings, is this kind of like speculation, or is this things we already know?
I mean, it's bits and pieces of what I played through, but it's also bits and pieces of I'm trying to figure it out. Like, for me personally, this time around, in order to try and keep the game a little bit more fresh, I've decided to not go into every little side quest and every little side biddy. I'll do that when it's live. But I got a general understanding of what's happening on the Dragon Isles, I think. So we could talk about it, or you could just be like, yo, I don't want to talk about it anyways.
Well, I mean, we could always do that when the expansion comes out.
At a later time. Sounds like a really good idea. All right, cool.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add, though, that isn't, like, spoilery?
I'm trying to think now. I mean, I pretty much covered all that we know about the dragons.
Yeah.
How long have we been going? Like 45 minutes a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. So I feel like I was gonna ask you, like, what do you think's gonna happen, but I don't know if that's gonna be too spoilery.
What I think is going to happen, from what I've seen so far, is that it's a combination between Mist of Pandaria and the Cataclysm. So you got like Mist of Pandaria, hidden behind the mist and whatnot, a new land to discover. On the Alliance side this time around, we got a Trevelian sitting on the throne who might be a bit more aggressive. And then we got like the Cataclysm side of things. So we got some elemental influences. So if I had to make a guess based on that, right? Like, so Shadowlands was Wrath of the Lich King. These two are then a combo. I'd say that we go into brand new territory, and then eventually we're going to go into maybe a faction war. But that is purely a stab in the dark right now. Like, a lot of people are asking who do you think is the end boss, or where's the story going to go. I got no clue. I find it really, really hard to predict. Like, on the one hand, it seems to be very safe, but that isn't necessarily bad. Like, a lot of people ask, like, where do you go after you've defeated the Titans, or after you've defeated the Death God itself? But in my humble opinion, a burning, fire-breathing dragon can be as threatening and world-ending as a colossal titan. It's just all a matter of presentation.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even think, like, everybody talks about the world-ending stuff. I think you can make cool villains without it being, really world-ending. Like, you can create some cool problems just from good writing, I guess.
Exactly.
I've heard Galakron being mentioned by a lot of people. So I think... Yeah. And I know you said Arthas tried to raise Galakron in Dragonblight. So I don't know how would that even happen, do you think?
I mean, a resurrection could happen, an infusion of elemental power, a child of Galagrond. Fun fact, it was actually a child of Galagrond in Siege of Orgrimmar. You remember where you had to climb the towers and shoot the lady orc off the
Oh,
beastie?
yeah. Yep.
That is Galagros, and that is actually descendant of Galagrond. It's neither here
Oh.
nor there. But there you go, fun fact.
Wait, how many children of Galacrond are there?
Who knows? And like, what is interesting, what might be a cool storyline is that even though we know that Galagrond mutated and started eating its own kind, like he became very necromantic and very huge, we don't exactly know why. So that might be the reason why it could be a really interesting thing, because if it happened to Galagrond, could it happen to others as well?
Yeah, that would actually be a really cool storyline. That would get me super intrigued.
There you go. So they could dive into that. But ultimately, like it's always the most fun hippity hoppity hype sign is at the start, because they can take it in any direction that they want. And so far, what I've seen on the Dragon Isles, while it might be familiar, it is new stuff. Like you learn new stuff about the dragons, in between stuff about the dragons, which we didn't know previously. So while we can have a look at, okay, this has been their dawn, their day, their night, the twilight. They're reopening that for some reason, and I'm curious to see, like, okay, why are we going back in here, and what is the story that you want to push forward out of this?
Yeah, I mean, after hearing all that, I'm pumped to see what they're doing with it now too.
Nice.
So I'm sure once it all comes out and we see some stuff and everything, we can do another talk, and it won't be spoilers by then. So, and maybe we'll know, we'll have some sort of direction, and not just a bunch of who knows what's gonna happen.
That would be good. Yeah.
One thing's for sure though, I hope Bane Bloodhoof isn't just eating his lunch in the corner.
Oh, poor Bane.
Or if he is, I hope he's doing it at home, in the comforts of like Thunderbluff or something.
In his comfortable home.
Just hitting up his Thunderbluff, weed or whatever. Where you gotta listen. I did the Taran heritage armor thing. You just go up to a mountain and they're just like, yo man, you want some of this? And then you're like, oh shit, I'm seeing things.
All of a sudden you're seeing spirits.
Yeah, all I'm saying is we need a Mulgore Taran-esque expansion where everyone just gets really high and we just fight shit that we see. That's all hallucinations.
Oh, I would love that. Poor Bane. I would love for Bane to actually do something. Oh, at some point, I'm not even joking, he said for the Shadowlands.
Oh my god. Well, here's hoping. So
Damn right.
Hey, thanks for joining me and doing another one of these, essentially a help Crendor get caught up and learn the lore videos, and people learn along with us.
And like you said, apparently more people are actually really down with these. I was very happy to hear these messages as well, because for me it always feels like I'm just rambling about nonsense, but apparently people were like, yo, I love how Crendor asks these questions. So yeah, I'm always happy to sit down.
Yeah, no, it's because I like to play the lore and like do all that, but I don't know what I've played through. It's like when you read something and you're like, okay, and then you got to reread it like twice just to be like, oh, now I get it. It's kind of like that, where I've played through Shadowlands and played through all these things, but I'm like, wait, what's going on? Why? Like, or even the old expansions, with Cataclysm and all that. So yeah, we'll do another one of these when Dragonflight comes out and we've played some stuff. But until then, go check out Nobbel. You can plug all your stuff.
All right, just Google Nobbel87. I'm on Twitch. I'm on YouTube. Oh, we also got Nobbel TV these days. If you like highlights and playthroughs, I got that. I got Twitter, Instagram, Discord, TikTok, all the things people have live on the internet. Nobbel87 on the Google. Yeah.
There you go. I'll link to some of those down below. And yeah, make sure to like this video, share it with people if you want them to learn the lore. Comment, subscribe.
Let your grandma know.
Let let your grandma know.
Dragons are awesome. Let them know.
Oh, Caligos.
He looks cute. Oh,
I like him. Magic. That's the only magic I have in my life anymore. I don't know. All right, we got what your grandma does. Honestly, we gotta stop. Thanks for listening and watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Okay. Okay. See ya.